Hi, just Paulie here, with Mr. Snoot's brief anecdote here. Some of these I might have told before, but we're just having a good laugh at a games things. So I thought I'd tell some of them again. Armour. So I'm a bit of an armour Nazi. It's one of the things that I particularly have always studied. From a very small child, I was obsessed with armour and made a lot of suits as a kid, made a lot of suits through kind of my reenactment days, still study them to this day. I actually just happen to love armour. But, so, reenactment days, I leave university and I ended up in this share house with these other people, and a lot of them were SCAs. We all got involved with reenactment, and people started making armour. And there were some amazing fails I just want to share, because they were just so damn funny. So, there was one guy, and he decides he's going to make a suit of armour. So he gets together and I'm going to make it out of leather, but I'm just going to attach plates to this thing. Okay, so he's going to like drill a couple of holes and rivet metal plates onto like a, what would you call it, boot leather jerkin. And so he, oh, have you got tools? Yeah, I've got tools. So he's round at my place. And we'll just leave you to it. We come back and everything, and lying on the carpet, ta-da, guys, look, see, I've done a suit of armour. I've done a whole suit of armour. And yeah, there's this, torso lying there, and arms and legs, and I'm looking at this and say, great. Hey, so how'd you put it on? What? I can't see fastenings. How do you put it on? Oh, well, it fits. It fits, yeah, but Tony, how do you put it on? Yeah, he hadn't actually made a way of opening and closing it. So the torso was front and back, but it's sealed. It's one unit. To put this thing on, he had to lie it on the ground, put his arms over his head, and then he'd kind of have to wriggle his way up into it, feeding his arms through the armholes, and then, and ideally now stand up and have someone else pulling it down, because he just hadn't figured that these things are best like front and back half, maybe straps at the shoulder, maybe straps at the waist or something to hold it together. Like virtually every suit of armour in the history of the human race, except some Japanese ones which tie up down the side with a separate plate. But I digress. Well, the haramaki, which ties up at the back. Japanese armour is one of my things. Stop it. The arms and everything are the same. He's got to like wriggle his way through, but it's like they only stay up by friction. He hasn't like got a strap that then attaches them up here. So these things will like constantly hang down, and the legs too pull them up, and they stay up there. Yes, but as you walk and your thighs expand and contract, or whatever, that kind of works these things down. But it was hilarious. But so we'd go out and fight in the list. Now this is Australia. Australian summer is apocalyptically hot. I see people over in the US complaining about the heat over there. That's just typical for us. That's just how we live. So this guy's wearing stuff, but he's decided not just to wear this because he's a role-playing gamer. So he's heard all about, padded gambesons. So he gets someone to basically, an actual gambeson is actually made. That padding is usually like, what would I say? If it was going to be like a gambeson, probably 12 layers of a dense canvas, really, often soaked in red wine and salt, stitched into like this quilted garment. Well, that's too much for him, so he just gets old cotton sleeping bags, 3 of them, and just basically cuts a hole in the top, and he kind of like sticks his head through it, and then just kind of wears it like a poncho. This time it ties at the side, so he's wearing 3 sleeping bags over his torso, then wiggling into this leather and metal monstrosity. And it's, 40, 45 degrees Celsius heat here in the summer. What's that? 106 to 112 Fahrenheit. So we're out there at these tournaments, but he was training as a nurse. So he's stolen all of these chemical cold packs, which is a thing that was basically used for keeping blood samples and tissue cold. You pull a cord, and it allows the chemicals to mix, and this thing basically becomes icy cold in there. So what he's done is, because this is so hot, he's sitting there waiting to go on. He's got a giant 2-litre bottle of Coca-Cola for some reason, and he's just drinking this. Oh, that one's empty. Oh God, oh it's so hot. Drinks another one. Drinking this. And he comes up. Oh, before I go on, I've got a way of beating the heat, because heat exhaustion is actually what really takes you out in armour. That's what deals you in. Even something like just the bar face masks on a kendo helmet are stifling, absolutely stifling. They just kind of but because plates and so on just stop the heat radiating out of your body, even before you've decided to wear 3 sleeping bags, yeah, it's going to kill you. But he's got these cold packs. He's put one down the front of his Akerton, and he's put one down the back, and he's left the strings kind of poking out through, the neck hole of the arm. So before I go in, could you reach around and pull these cords, and that'll start the cold packs going, and that will chill me down so that, so I'll actually be like air conditioned as I'm fighting. Okay, Tom. So, all right, ding, ding, here's go. So, right, off he goes. He gets up there, all right. I pull the strings, and off he strides. Now he's striding around because he's just stuffed them down there. As he walks, these things work their way down. He did have a belt on under that cotton armour, remember? But that's around sort of his hip bones, but this thing settles down. So one of these giant ice packs is now sitting over the front of his bladder, and the other one's gone down the back. It's the small of his back where his kidneys are, and just ice. And you could just see this guy out there fighting, and you could tell sort of by the sudden way the knees are like pressing together. It's like, oh, he's drunk about 4 litres of Coke, and now he's got 2 ice blocks lashed on either side of his entire urinary tract. He had to bow out. And he's got these giant gloves, which he's trying to get off because he can't basically... But because he's wriggled into this suit of armour, he can't just escape it. So in the end, in order to relieve it, he had to basically run screaming down into a creek and just basically wet himself in the water because there was nowhere to get... I can't get my pants off. I can't get the gloves. I can't get the gloves off to get my pants off. I can't get the pants off. It's like, Jesus. Okay, so... Then we get to my friend Damien. I probably told this one, but we were big fans of RuneQuest, and one of the coolest armors in RuneQuest is Cubolli. And, of course, it's very frequently mentioned in a lot of medieval sources, and it is always wrongly recorded as being leather that has been hardened by being boiled in oil, was how they were... Wax or oil was how they were doing it. I now, in later years, know exactly how to make it. I've made many times. And I'm a black belt in Jukendo, which is Japanese bayonet fighting full armor. Your front shoulder is guarded by this Cubolli arm guard. And that thing would stop a freight train. It's monstrous. Japanese Cubolli, it's buffalo hides. It's really thick. We're talking about a centimetre thick. But it's actually... cured really hard. What you actually do is it's neats for oil. You work neats for oil really into you, soak it, walk off 2 days, easily 2 days. Just leave it in neats for oil, and then you bake it in a kiln which actually contracts the fibers so the leather becomes physically more dense, and you can do multiple kiln bakings, but you've got to keep the neats for oil going, otherwise it becomes brittle. The Japanese actually soak theirs in fish glue, making it into almost a fiberglass. It's amazing. However, that's not what Damien did. He decides he's going to make a set of lamellar armor because he's really into kind of Mongol-y sort of stuff. And yeah, I'm going to make a Mongol armor. And he's read that a lot of this stuff was rawhide. Well, we couldn't get rawhide. Most Mongol armor was actually, well, initially it was rawhide painted with pitch to keep it weatherproof. Well, we couldn't get rawhide, but he could get normal leather. But I'll make Cubolli. Cubolli is leather that is hardened by being fried in oil. He got a chip fryer, an actual deep fryer basket. He heated up cooking oil, and he cut hundreds and hundreds of these lamellae, about yay long with holes punched in them so he could lash this whole thing together. And in he goes. And we come home and, yum, the house is just full of the smell like frying beef. It's like someone's making, Chinese deep-fried beef or something for dinner. Or so we come into the kitchen, Damien, what you making? I'm making armour. And yeah, the entire house is just covered with, a 2-inch layer of grease because he's just been kind of like, he put a couple of sheets of newspaper on the floor and it's just emptying this chip basket full of dripping wet stuff. But he's fried things, and it did go hard, but it was brittle as hell. But it also just continued to smell like cooked beef. So the grease never went away. It was just inside every molecule of this thing. No matter how much he wiped it or whatever, it just stayed greasy, absolutely unspeakable slick. So he smelled like a fish and chip shop, but not quite like a fish and chip shop, because that smell of fried beef stayed with him. So this guy smelled like the yummiest barbecue you've ever beheld. This Armour, it just always smelled of barbecue. But so he made this Armour, and it was greasy, but dogs would follow him everywhere. So he would like stride out into the parks for these SCA fights and just, you know, had another very pretentious friend. He decides he's going to make a hoplite linothorax. Again, that's that Greek hoplite arm you'll see that's often quite stiff. It's usually got the terges, the feathers at the, sometimes at the shoulders, but always from the waist. It's got the shoulder yoke and everything. You know the one. This is a type of textile armour. And again, it's usually made from about 24 to sometimes 36 layers of dense woven canvas, which is glued one layer over the other, over the other, over the other. It's actually relatively light. Everyone keeps like, oh, it's light. It's not light. No armour is light, but it is way better than wearing sort of metal. It's stiff as hell. It'll stop anything short of a laser death ray or a meteorite strike. It is actually pretty tough stuff. A massive like spear thrust might get through it, but that's about it. But this guy decides that what they would have used at the time for glue says, well, the Athenians and so on, these are all tend to be, you know, seaside communities. They're not cattle keepers. They don't have many horses, so this would clearly be fish glue. He's probably right. So he decides he will make his own fish glue. How is fish glue made, you say? I'm glad you asked. You take fish skin and you take fish bones and you boil the living crap out of them. So he boils the living crap out of every bit of fish bone that he can find, and he just makes this cauldron of fish soup, essentially, and then keeps boiling it down until it turns to a slick and sticky mass. And this is then what he uses as the glue for this. So again, he made this magnificent suit of armour. He was quite a good little panel beater metal worker, so he's got a copper gorgon's head to go in the centre of it, and he's got some little bits of kind of Greek mythology bits as the tail ends. He's done in copper that he can kind of clack onto the terges, so it looks really great. And he smelled like fish, so he would go to conventions and so on, and he's made his Corinthian helmet, and he's got his hoplite. He can stand there all beautifully posed, and he's there hoping people will photograph him, and he gets stray cats. Just go, piss off, we're doing photos here. You couldn't have him inside the buildings, because, just come and do a photo up. No. Because it's not only fish, but after a couple of months, it smells like, you know, slightly off fish. Really, it was really eye-wateringly potent. It was like, oh boy. I'm wondering if they imported a lot of horse hoof from Thracia or Thessaly. That is possibly my thoughts there, because the fish glue thing is just no go. Maybe they used porpoise, I don't know. But yeah, highly, highly, highly accurate armour. No, it's just not gonna. There are some things you don't want to mess with. Oh God, oh the accuracy. There's another chap who decided he was going to make. You'll see like Greenwich armours, English armours from early 1500s, Henry VIII kind of period. They are often done as a harness for the X. So you'll see like Henry VIII will have one set of armour but with extra clip-ons and bits that you can take and remove. So it's got different functions. So his harness for the tawny is going to be that breastplate, but it's going to have a second glasses plate over the front of it. It's going to have a helmet that actually clips onto the breastplate so your head doesn't get jerked around. It's going to have like the arm that's got your lance in will have a huge shoulder pauldron and everything. Again, that's going to be, you know, and it's probably going to have rigid legs kind of built into it, etc. But his harness for the field is going to be that same breastplate, different helmet put on, here's the different arms and legs, and the harness for tournament foot combat, they'll often have a thing called a fold, F-A-U-L-D, which is like a bell-shaped skirt, because one of the things we found in the SCAA is that you can get hit in their combat style, you can get hit in the arse a lot and the back of the legs, because they do this kind of wrap shots. They kind of roll their wrist, and you can actually get hit on the back of the legs and the arse a lot. So the fold is actually not a bad idea. It protects those bits. Okay, I can see that. So this guy decides he's going to make this suit with a fold, and this will be his suit for the foot tourney. And of course he decides to mirror polish this thing. So he walks out in this mirror polish stuff, and hands down this was a fantastic piece of work. I believe the suit, and we're making this in 1985 here. I think that suit still exists. I've seen photos of him in it recently, so he's kept alive and going. But when he first brought this out, he's standing there waiting to go in, and he's made this rigid bell skirt. Now, the other thing about the essay is it's full of musicians. So we're sitting around sort of waiting to go, and he's standing there posing. Ha, 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 ha. And people, of course, have got their various sticks that they're going to be hitting someone with, and someone bangs into him and hits the fold, and it goes bong. This musician takes a stick and hits it higher up the bell, because it goes down. Bong, bong, bong. Do it in the middle. Bong, 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 bing, bong, bong. Little bit of a sound like Jamaican steel drums there. A couple more musicians come. So this guy's standing there just trying to look as cool as possible. I'm in my mirror polished armor. I'm here to look beautiful, and you've got these guys around him. Stop it, stop it. No, just stay still a little bit longer. Hang on, we almost got this. So yes, the mobile Jamaican steel drum suit is still, I think, another great classic of armor making. An untold musical hero there. Oh my god. Yeah. So, yeah, there's been some spectacular successes, some spectacular fails. I think some of the funniest ones we were doing was we actually started turning out plastic samurai armor because it was cheap and easy to do. You could just make one pattern and just basically race this stuff out for people, and it looked really Kurosawa. You know, it was the simple big strip armor. We could do it 3 different basic sizes, a small, medium, or large, and we could just run it. Okay. Yeah, you look like a medium. Here's the bits. Just sit over here. Here's a reel of laces. Lace it together. How's that feel? Yep. Okay. Wear it over the kimono of your choice. Next. Your helmet's your own problem. But, yes, the fish glue armor, a classic. The deep-fried beef armor, spectacular. And the armor with no way in or out, which still to this day mystifies me. It's like, did it never occur to you that people have to get into this stuff? Anyway, just some vague stories of armor making times. Cheers.